Hello and welcome to Desmond's Flicks.
I'm your host, Desmond, and today I'm joined by a very special guest. He made his feature film debut in the fantastic slasher Terrifier. Art the Clown himself, David Howard Thornton. Thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast, David.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking before we started recording about conventions and meeting over at Mad
Yeah.
Monster Party in Arizona. So I mean, it must be just like a whirlwind since Terrifier came out last year.
Yeah, it really has been. Like my past year has been life changing, so I can't complain.
That is so awesome, man. And while we're on the topic of Terrifier, what was it that initially caught your attention about the film as well as the role of Art the Clown?
Well, I mean, I had seen All Hallows Eve like a few years before I like did the audition, so I was already familiar with the character and I loved him. I was like, oh my God, I have to play a character like that one day. He's like an evil Mr. Bean. That's awesome. And so that's what captured it. So like when I saw like the posting on a website for auditions, I was like, oh my God, yes, submit me, submit me, submit me. I have to do this role. I can totally do this.
That is amazing. And All Hallows Eve was such a cool little indie film. And seeing
Yeah.
where Art the Clown came from, what was it something that you took from that film and how did you make Art the Clown your own?
Well, I mean, I watched, yeah, of course, like what Mike Gianelli, the original art, did a lot, just so I could get the basic nuances of the character, get some of his mannerisms and stuff like that down. And I just tweaked things myself. Like, I think I added a little bit more to the smile, because
Mhm.
I have a big Joker smile anyway. So, so it's like I can add more to that, add more to like the just how he waves and a little bit more just his body stances and stuff like that. Because I have more of an experience in like physical comedy and clowning, and so I just wanted to put more of that into the role because Art is a clown overall. So I was like, yeah, I've got to add more of that, the physical aspects of him. Because I think adding a little bit more of the exaggerated movements makes him a little bit freakier as well.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of Joker and clowns, I saw that you were in a fan film playing the Joker.
Oh yeah, that's a fun role.
Oh my God, you looked awesome in that, and
Thank you.
you really nailed it. What exactly attracts you to roles like the Joker or Art the Clown?
I don't know what it is. I've always had a place in my heart for like villains that have a sense of humor. So
Mhm.
I love playing. I've always done comedy, so and I always loved playing villains. So it's like the best of both worlds to me. So I think that's what attracts me to them because, especially characters like that, they're so evil, but they're having so much fun being so evil. They know they're evil. They're not one of those villains that doesn't realize that they're the bad guy. They know they're the bad guy, and they have fun with it. And I think that's what's so much fun about playing them because you can just let
Right.
loose.
You're almost living vicariously.
Oh yeah, it's like total opposite of myself in real life. So I was like, it's a chance to just step out of my skin for a while, and it's just like, oh, this is fun.
What's a role that you see out there that you're like, man, I would love to play a role like that someday?
Oh boy, there's so many, but I mean, I would say like, gosh, I'm like just thinking of recent things that have happened recently. Like there's like recent announcement about like Disney like thinking about doing something with Nightmare Before Christmas again. I'm like, oh my God, I would love to play Jack somehow.
Yeah.
Just wanted to play Jack because I've always thought that would be a fun like stage musical to do. Is Nightmare Before Christmas. I'd love to play Jack in that. But other than that, God, I mean like I would. I've also wanted to because I think the time is right now to do it. Where you've seen success of Deadpool and movies like that, is
Mhm.
to do a reboot of The Mask, but
Oh,
do it as how it was really in the the Dark Horse comics, where it was very dark and violent.
right.
I would love to do that kind of interpretation of the character, just because he's such a manic character. I would love to play that.
That would be awesome. I could totally see you doing that. Just
Yeah.
just based on, your physicality in the role of Art the Clown. That was like the first thing I noticed when I watched
Oh,
the film was, wow, this is so theatrical.
well, thank you. That's what I have my all of my experience in is theater primarily. I mean, like this was my first feature film, so this is a new experience for me. I'm so used to doing everything at least with an audience before me on stage. So because at stage you have to exaggerate things a little bit more anyway to be seen from the back of
Right.
the audience. It's like you don't have a camera right there picking up every little bitty thing. So that's what I'm used to doing the exaggerated movements with, especially with comedy.
Right. And it totally plays well with, the role of Art the Clown. And I could totally see you doing something like that with a character like the Mask. Um, and speaking of theater, when did you start getting into acting, getting into theater, and how did you make the transition from being a theater actor to getting into film?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. Well, I started acting at a very, very early age, doing church theater of all things, which is kind of funny when you think of what I do now. I went from doing plays about Jesus to just killing people right and left. I'm like, yeah, it's not very Jesus-like. Like, oh, if they only knew. I think my grandma was onto something when she tried to exercise me one time in a restaurant. So,
Really?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. My dad's mom was one of those very evangelical Christians. So I was like, being a typical 5-year-old in a restaurant one day, and I was getting impatient because I wanted to go to the toy store, and I was like, I want to go, hurry up, let's go. And she's like this little 5'4" woman, and she came over and like I slapped her hand to my forehead and just like, Lord Almighty, how can I use these games out of my dimension? And I started playing along with it. I had been like 5 years old at the time, but I just started going it was a long. My mom was so mad at both of us.
Oh my God.
Middle of a restaurant too, like in the middle of like Sunday lunch restaurant, crowded, like it was crazy.
But I'm sure you had a captive audience.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like we should have known then. We really should have known then. But yeah, after that, I mean, I started doing like I mean, I didn't do theater for a little while really with community stuff until I was in middle school because I was bullied a lot and I was like this short little nerd with glasses and braces and a high pitched voice because I didn't hit puberty until much later than most people. So it was like I was still boy soprano until I was like 16. So I was an easy target.
Uh,
Yeah, so like, and I was really shy at that point because I had gone to a new school where no one knew me, and my mom was like, "Hey, I was always being goofy and silly at home and around my friends at home and stuff like that." My mom's like, "Have your friends or has anybody at your school ever seen you act like this?" I'm like, "No." And it's like, "Well, you need to, that you should try out for like the school production of Mickey's Christmas Carol and go out for the role of Mickey, maybe." I'm like, "Okay." And so
huh.
I ended up getting a lot of good laughs in that show. That's when I think I discovered I had a knack for like comedy because we had some mishaps happen on the show. Like our set fell down on top of us, and
Oh no.
I just totally turned it off. I had like we had our dinner scene where we're having like that with the Cratchit family,
Hmm.
and the little turkey we had on our table, the table collapsed and shot the turkey off stage. These kind of things are going on. Like, wow, I just started making jokes about it right in the moment. I'm like, this is, and I had everybody laughing. Like in the first time in that school, people were laughing with me instead of at me, and I was like, this feels amazing. I
Hmm.
like this. And my mom's like, yeah. I'm like, I want to do more of this. And so she started to encourage me to audition for like local community theater productions. And it took me a few times, and I finally got my first one. And it's like after that, it was just like I found my life's calling. So I just did theater all throughout college, even though I wasn't a theater major in college. I actually got my degree in teaching, but
Oh.
I still did theater. And it wasn't until my after my mom passed away from cancer that I had that epiphany where I'm like, I don't want to teach. I want to entertain people. I want to do what's going to make me happy in my life. I only get one chance of this life. Might as well, see what's out there and see what I can do with it. And so I left and moved up here to New York and auditioned for a lot of off-Broadway shows, got in a few of those, and eventually got into doing the national tour of How the Grinch Stole Christmas for 5 years, where I
Oh.
studied for Stephen Carl, who is Robbie Rotten on Lazy Town,
Oh, cool.
and as the Grinch, and I also played Grandpa Who in that. And Stephen was a master at physical comedy. He passed away, unfortunately, last year from cancer. But he was a master at clowning and everything. And he was the first time I had ever met an actor that had like the same style that I had. But he was better at it. And so he helped me fine tune and perfect my skills. And so I learned so much from him. And I put a lot of that into art itself. I would have moments on set where I'm like, what would Stefan do in this moment? And then I'm like, okay, I know how to handle this scene right now. So that's my journey into doing film. And then I got Terrifier.
Wow. That is so awesome, man. I mean, you're starting from school and finding that outlet. And I actually have very similar background to you, which I find a little funny. Like I did theater in high school. I was bullied a lot through elementary school and junior high.
Yeah.
Did theater in college and then ended up getting into design.
Awesome.
And when my dad passed away, I was like, I need to like really throw myself into, talking about film.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see those similarities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my mom's death that I use that as a I guess a catalyst to inspire
Mhm.
me more with my life. So it sounds like you did the same.
Yeah, I mean, it's so life-changing when that happens. It really puts a lot of things into perspective for you.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. I mean, because I look at those moments in life where, like, I've had other friends that have lost parents and they've gone down a different path. They went down that dark path, and I was starting to go down that dark path, and I realized it. I was like, oh no, I'm not happy. What's going to make me happy?
Right.
That's when I realized, like, this is what's going to make me happy. I need to find my happiness, and I need to pursue my happiness.
That's awesome, man. I mean, that's so important. Life is too short to not pursue what you love.
Exactly.
So, we're talking about how you got into clowning and, getting into, the head of that character. How do you get into the character of Art the Clown? Like, is there a process that you have to get into that character?
No, I can like once I'm like makeup and like costume, I can pretty much just turn it on, turn it off.
Okay.
Yeah, I've always been like that. Once I know what I'm going to do with the character in my head, I can just turn it on, turn it off. I don't
Wow.
have to do the whole method actor approach or anything like that. And I think my co-stars are very grateful for that. I wasn't like mailing people condoms and like anything like that. So that's the good thing. It's just,
And speaking of, just like working with your co-stars, what for you was the most difficult scene to shoot, if there was any?
oh boy. I mean, I would say definitely it was that the hacksaw scene, but I mean, it was more difficult for Catherine than myself. But just it was difficult watching what she had to go through for that scene because that was not a fun experience for her. I think that was like the one night on set we were not joking around at all because that was such a dangerous stunt to do. Because she was literally hanging upside down like that for hours. We would only let her hang upside down for 30 seconds at a time, but still, she was doing that for hours on end in a very, compromising position, let's just say. And it was
Right.
20 degrees that night, too, and she's covered in all that blood. So, I mean, I know I was cold, and I know she was much colder than I was. So that was difficult. I would say another thing that was difficult for me personally was having to get used to actually like almost hurting my co-stars in a way,
Right.
stunts. Because like my first night on set, I was like, it was the scene where I'm choking Jenna's character Tara,
Mhm.
and you kind of even see it in the film where it looks like I'm not really choking her. The reason for that is that's only the take they had for that worked, and unfortunately, I thought they were doing just a face shot of her, not showing her from where the neck was. So I was just
Gotcha.
putting my hands there, but they were like, you can actually hold her by her throat. I'm like, oh, I don't want to hurt her though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, she's like, no, go ahead and go ahead and put a pressure on there because it gives me something to work with. I'm like, okay, you just smack the shit out of me if I hurt you though. Let me know. She's like, okay, I will. So it's like I was so concerned. Like as soon as they said cut, I'm like, are you okay? Are you okay? Which I imagine it looked really funny in that makeup. Well, like, oh my God, are you okay?
How long does it take to get that makeup on and also to get it off?
Well, originally it took about 4 hours, but like this past weekend at this con, Damien and I got it down to 2 hours, which was amazing.
Oh,
Like, wow, we did something special. But
nice.
I mean, sometimes it would take longer because Damien would also have to go like film other shots and come back and do more makeup and then go set up a shot and come back and do some more makeup. So, I mean, there were some nights where I was in that chair for 8 hours and then I had to go film for the rest of the night until the sun came up. And so that was brutal. But I'm like, it usually takes about an hour to get all that off too because there's so much glue on my face.
Mm.
I'm basically having to just like peel skin off of my face.
Oh,
That glue. I mean, the mask itself comes off easily. It's all that stupid glue that's on there.
yeah. Oh, I can imagine I mean, I've only dressed up as Mr. Beaver in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe in high school. So I can only imagine what that feels like to not only wear the costume, but all the prosthesis on your face.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It can be brutal at times.
And one of the things that I love about Terrifier is the usage of practical effects, especially in the kills.
Oh, definitely.
And what was it like to see all these, gnarly effects and being able to doing that, the hacksaw piece or,
Oh,
cutting someone's throat open and pulling their head back. Like, what was that like?
so cool because I've always loved that kind of stuff in movies. I always loved the behind the scenes stuff. I love to see how things are done. And to me, it's so much more magical when it's actually practical effects versus like CGI because that's
Mhm.
actually something tangible. And like someone had to put a lot of effort into creating this thing and making it work. And it's like sometimes it's like very rudimentary means. Like we would have just like tubes and they would have, our crew members out over there with, pumps and just like having just like plungers and squirt out the blood and stuff like that. And you have to find ways to hide all the tubes so the camera doesn't pick them up. So you're like, okay, I can't move my arm past this angle or everybody will see the tubes and I mess up the shot or something like that. So it was really cool doing that, especially like what was really fun was doing the decapitation because we only had like one head. And so when I got to actually tear that thing off, I got to tear it off and I was like, woo! That was fun. That was that and the of course hacksawing that the body in half was fun too because I really got to saw through that thing.
Oh my gosh, when I first saw that, my jaw literally dropped when I saw that.
Oh yeah, I can
Like,
see why.
yeah, I mean, I've never, I mean, besides Bone Tomahawk,
Mm.
that's like the only thing I can think of where I've seen that, and
Yeah.
it was so creative and just so gnarly.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. And we didn't cut away, and that's what people usually do in movies now. It's like when they get to those kind of scenes, they just cut away and you see the aftermath or something like that.
right, yeah, you guys went for like old school slasher and like exploitation films.
Heck yes, we did.
Loved it, buckets of blood and gore, how it should be.
It's so funny because I just saw since you mentioned buckets of blood and gore, I just saw today that the people at It Too just announced that they say their movie has the most blood that any horror film has ever had in it. And I'm like, someone put a fire under your butt.
I saw that today. I'm really curious to see what exactly is gonna happen. What are we gonna see?
Yeah, me too. Me too. I can't wait to see it though. I'm excited.
Oh yeah, they've done a fantastic job.
Oh yeah. I mean, I wanted to be in it too so badly. I was like, I wanted to be Richie Tozier. But I
Oh
was like,
yeah.
yeah, but at the time I wasn't, people didn't know who I was, so I didn't even get an audition for it. But I mean, they cast Bill Hader, so he's perfect for Richie. He's
Yeah.
absolutely perfect. I was like, okay, damn it, I can't be mad. It's Bill.
Right.
And he's
Well,
fantastic.
so ever since the success of Terrifier, are you seeing, more roles kind of come your way where you can explore different avenues, either within horror or outside of the horror genre?
I wish I could say I have, but it's been kind of quiet recently. I need to get my agents on top of things. It's like, come on, guys, cast me, cast me. I'm like, I'm getting so much love from like the community itself. It's, now talking a lot of celebrities and stuff like that who want to work with me. So I'm like, okay, well, someone cast me in something else than Terrifier.
Right.
I would love to be like on one of these CW shows, especially since they're doing this Batwoman show. I'm like, hey.
That is so cool. I'm really happy to see Batwoman on
Yeah.
television.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what they're gonna do with that. But I'm like, yeah, I mean, even if it's not Joker, I would love to be like, Riddler or Scarecrow or some character on that. I would just love to be on one of the CW shows in general. It'd be fun just doing a superhero show.
Yeah, those are like some really fun characters too. You can go wild with those characters.
Oh God, yes. Oh God, yes.
So with Terrifier 2, Damien Leone just finished the script pretty recently, right?
He did, yes, yes. I read it a few weeks ago.
And what did you think of it? What little tidbits can you give to the fans?
Oh boy. Oh, it's even a better script, I think, than Terrifier 1 by far. And it's like Damien's outdone himself on this one. It's just like I think he figured out where he's going with everything now. Because like when he wrote the first Terrifier movie, I think he was just like, well, this will be fun. We'll see if this does anything.
Right.
And we'll build, if it goes anywhere, we'll build story afterwards. So it's like. And now he's started to really build the story, and it's really good because like we've already been introduced to art. Now we're more introduced to the world around art and how he affects that world.
Oh.
So yeah. So that's gonna be what's gonna be fun, and it's crazy. Oh my gosh, there's some of these scenes that I'm so giddy about filming. I'm just like, this is gonna be so much fun.
Oh man, I cannot wait. I'm so excited. My
Oh.
my friends and I have been excited to see this film.
Oh, I'm so stoked. I'm like, I wish I could say what's in it because I'm just like, oh my god. It's like I read the script in front of Damien, and he was I guess following along on his phone while I was reading it. He knew exactly where I was in the script just by the way I was reacting to certain moments and stuff like that, just by my laugh and my giggles and like my that kind of stuff. It's just like, oh, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
Oh, that's so awesome. I cannot wait to see what you two come up with this
Uh,
time.
well, we're not holding back. That's sure to say. It's like I think that's the one thing would be the worst thing we could do is to hold back on what we've already done. Like pull back from like the violence and the gore and stuff like that. It's like that's important for us to keep going with that because I think that's one of the reasons Terrifier was so successful with audiences because we brought that back, which has been lacking from horror films in the past decade or so.
Absolutely. I mean, it was a breath of fresh air when it came out at the beginning of last year, where it was like, finally, a really hardcore, gory, just, balls to the wall, crazy horror film.
Yeah, I mean that's it's. I mean we're all slasher fans ourselves that have made this, and especially Damien. I mean he's named after Damien from The Omen, so I'm like,
Oh, is he really? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, I mean he's been watching horror films since he was like 3 or 4 years old. Like his mom would just take him to horror films. So I mean he's a huge horror fan, and so that I think if you put the people that are passionate about that kind of genre in charge of making films in that genre, that's when you're going to get the better stuff. And it's not just like a Hollywood studio just, trying to just get easy money and they just put what out they want to. And it's just like, yeah, but they are afraid to take risks. It's like, I think they're more obsessed with putting like butts in seats these days.
Right.
By making it instead of a rated R movie, they're trying to make more horror movies PG-13 so they can get a younger audience in there. And it's, sacrificing the integrity of those type of films because, it's like that's the whole thing with horror. You're supposed to push the envelope. You're supposed to go crazy with it and, take risks.
Oh, absolutely agree. I mean, that's the reason why I love horror. I mean, Dead Alive is one of my favorite horror films of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Did you grow up on horror films, or was it something that you got into later?
I got into it later because like my mom was a big chicken. She thought The Fall of the House of Usher was the scariest movie of her lifetime when she saw it. And if you've seen that movie, you're like, come on.
I've never seen that actually.
It's an old black and white movie, and it's I watched it a few years ago. I was like, really, Mom? This scared you? Oh man, you could not watch Terrifier. Yeah, so like for the longest time, like my dad liked horror films, but my mom would not allow them in the house because she's like, no, I am not watching this shit. And so for the longest time, her fear impacted me, and I was afraid to watch them until like my senior year of high school when Scream 2 came out, and some of my castmates wanted to go to a screening of it, and they're like, Dave, come on. And there was this like girl in the cast I wanted to go out, and I was like, she's cute. Okay, I can't look like a chick in front of her. She's going. Okay, fine. I'll go, guys. I'll go. And I had a blast. I was like just laughing. I was having so much fun in that movie. And I'm like, my God, this is great. This is what my mom was scared of. Oh my God, this is wonderful. And so that next year in college, like my roommate, who was also came from a very sheltered background. He comes from a very Southern Baptist Christian family. Like they're like the Flanders,
Yeah.
They're just gosh gee, oh this is wonderful, and the sweetest people you'll ever know. But he had never really seen horror either, and so we're like, let's go like just rent a whole stack of tapes and watch them all weekend. That's what we started doing once we got to college. So much fun. And that's when my love for the genre grew.
What were some movies that you guys rented? If which ones do you remember that were most memorable?
We did the classics. I mean, we started off with the classics, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Omen, all the Jason, Mike Myers, Chucky, Freddy Krueger films. It was just like, that's what we watched, and it was like, God, these are fun.
What is your favorite horror film of all time?
I don't have a favorite. But
what would be one that you would revisit on like a somewhat normal basis, like one that you're like, yeah, I can pop that in like once a year and always have a good time with it?
I would say like Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 Dream Warriors is one of them.
That's fantastic.
Oh, yeah, I love that one. Of course, original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I just think that's a fantastic movie in itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Halloween, Exorcist, all that kind of stuff. It's just, they're so good. They're so good. Omen, just all of the classics.
Yeah.
And then if I just want pure dumb fun, it was where it's like I just turn off my brain. I totally enjoy like the Scream movies or the Final Destination movies or the Saw movies. So you can't really turn off your brain for the Saw movies because those plots got really convoluted.
They did.
What? It's like 8, 6, 7 movies into it, and like, oh yeah, this character from the second film's this person, they're doing this. I'm like, whoa, I can't even remember the second film.
Yeah. It's like one of those series where you have to watch them back to back to back, so you know what the story is.
Oh my God, yeah. And it's like I should have done that because I would sit into the later ones. I'm like, what the hell is that? Who? Oh, yeah, that person. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, if I went and watched these again, it would make more sense. But I
Right.
can't get as excited. But oh, the kills are great.
Speaking of kills, like what were, and I know that this is different from the director's point of view, but from your point of view, what were some of Damien's inspirations for some of the kills in this film?
Well, I know, like, I've no, that's a good question. He's got a sick brain. I know for the hacksaw scene, he got that from medieval torture methods.
Oh,
Yeah, there's this like old painting where they would that he's got inspiration from where there's this person that's hung upside down. There are these two guys with a big huge saw cutting the person in half.
jeez.
Yeah, just like that. That's where he got that idea from. It's like, oh my dude, go and look into more of this like medieval torture stuff. We can probably use it in some future ones.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, I can imagine the wheel started turning after the first film for him to be like, how do I kill people the next time?
Yeah, yeah. It's just like I mean, they did some really messed up stuff back then, like flailing people's like skin from their body and not flailing, flaying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like flailing skin. Look at that flailing skin. That's just turkey neck, man. You got turkey neck and like those hanging like fat arms, yeah,
I totally
like
have a visual in my head now of that.
a flailing
Thank
skin.
you.
English hard.
Words and things.
Flailing skin.
You know what one always freaked me out from like the medieval torture devices was it's like this giant bowl and
Oh
people
yeah.
and they put
Put
them in there and
something
cook them
inside
alive.
it and like cooked them alive inside of it.
Yeah.
That's like, oh jeez.
So no,
Oh,
that's something that Art the Clown has to do.
oh yeah, that or the whole thing when they would put a person on a table and they would put a rat on their stomach and they would put a like an iron like bowl or something on top of the rat and they would light it on fire. So like the metal's getting hot, so the rat to escape has to like burrow through the person's stomach. I'm like, oh god.
Oh.
Oh yeah, just crazy stuff that they used to do back then. Of course, good old rack,
Hmm.
just yeah on that thing, or draw and quarter somebody.
Oh my God. You guys have a plethora of ways to dispatch all your hapless victims.
Oh god, yes. Oh god, yes.
What do you wish you had known when you started out as an actor?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh, I don't know. I wish I knew the answer to this question.
There's only one right answer.
I know. Yeah, he's 42.
Ding, ding, ding.
Oh, gosh, I guess like I wish I knew more about the nature of the business side of the business itself, because I've had to learn about a lot of just how to take care of business.
Right.
Yeah, how to, especially self promotion and stuff like that. I think that would have been very helpful to know starting out with. I mean, I guess some people would say they wish they knew it would take so long and how much perseverance you would need, but I think that had been told to me before, so I was like, okay, yeah, I know this is not going to be one of these overnight success things. It's going to take years of just pounding the pavement, and so yeah. But that's a good thing for people to know too. It's like, yeah, this stuff doesn't happen overnight. It takes years and years and years, unless you're extremely lucky.
Right. When you think about yourself 10 years ago, if
Hmm.
you could write a letter to yourself 10 years ago, what would you tell, David back then?
Hmm. Keep doing what you're doing, man. It's gonna pay off. Yeah, it's like, yeah, just like keep on that path.
Well, I mean, it's been working out for you so far. I mean, again, congratulations on the incredible success of Terrifier.
Thank you so much. It's been mind blowing. We did not expect any of this by far.
Yeah, there's so much love for Art the Clown. You've created a whole new icon for the slasher genre.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, like we kind of had that epiphany this weekend when we're at this we're at Mad Monster Party in Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
Damien and I were both just sitting there going like, just seeing how everybody was reacting towards us, and like not just like the fans, but like other horror actors as well, like Kane Hodder and stuff like that. Like Kane is like apparently a fan of the film. He wants to somehow be involved in the sequels at some point. I'm just like, oh wow, I'm like,
Wow.
he must have created something here. And then just seeing all like the fan art at these conventions that they're
Right.
selling, and like people cosplaying and all that, and just seeing how excited people were just to meet me, because I mean, to me, I'm just myself, so it's just like I had people just shaking and in tears when they met.
Oh.
I was like, this is wow, this is surreal. Because like, I mean, I was a guy back in high school and middle school where people wouldn't even give me the time of day.
Right.
It's like this is so bizarre. So I'm like, wow, we must have really created something interesting here. And I had that like epiphany where I'm like, you know what? Because there were kids coming to this convention, and
Hmm.
one of them, his name is Liam. He was one of the staff, or the stiff as they call him, at Monster Party. He was his son, and he was a fan, and he was just pound. He was like just kind of just like his dad's like, yeah, he looks up to you guys so much, and I was like, I realized like, oh, I guess like art in a way might be this generation's Freddy Krueger, and
Yep.
I'm like, oh wow, this is the new generation. Holy crap, I might be like. That's when it sunk in. It's like, oh wow, this is something special. Then I might be, for some kids right now, what Freddy Krueger and Jason and Mike Myers and Chucky and Leatherface and Pinhead and all those guys were for me. Now
Yeah.
that was kind of mind blowing in itself.
Yeah, I mean, and I can imagine from your end of things, just kind of seeing everything unravel since you've, been, behind the scenes playing art.
Yeah, it's just we didn't expect that. It was we had one night on set, one of our producers came in. It was his first night seeing me in costume, and I had some blood on me and stuff like that. And he's just like, wow, wow, you guys have got something special here. It's like there's something very iconic looking about this character in
Mhm.
itself. It's like that's something you don't see every day. This is going to go somewhere. You guys probably don't realize it, but this is going to go somewhere.
I mean, the first moment that I saw Art the Clown on screen in Terrifier, there was just something about it that just made me go, wow, this is really unique. This isn't something that I've seen before.
Hmm.
And it's just the character has such a striking presence along with the theatrical performance you put into it. It's a very unique character that we haven't seen in the slasher genre since Freddy Krueger.
Oh wow, thank you.
I mean, it's so very true. There's something very, much of a callback to, the heyday of slasher films.
Well, that's what we were doing. This is our love letter to slasher films.
Yeah.
Because I kind of look at like art in a lot of ways as like a big, huge mishmash of so many of those horror icons from back in the day. Like there's bits of Chucky and Freddy and Mike Myers and Jason and Leatherface and Pinhead, all those characters. There's bits of them in him.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the thing that always struck me, I actually just watched Terrifier before we started talking,
Hmm.
just to have it fresh in my head again. And I'm a huge fan of the film. One of the things that I really love about Art the Clown is the fact that he never makes one single sound.
Yeah. Oh, that's so much fun to do. That's what's so interesting about the character to me too. I love that.
Oh yeah, I mean there was the scene where you're holding the baby,
Hmm.
and then you think he's saying shh, but it's actually the pipes.
Yeah, well, that
That
made me
was
so happy when
fantastic.
I saw that in the theater because I didn't know Damien was doing that. And so when it had a screening and they had the, I was like, that is awesome. Love it. Yes.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, because for a minute I was like, oh my gosh, he's gonna start talking, and I was like, oh wait, no, those are the pipes. That is so cool.
Yeah, I was like, that's so cool. Oh, that made me giddy. I was like, oh, I love that. Good job, Damien. Good
Well,
job. Yeah.
again, David, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Oh, you're most welcome, man. This is fun.
It's just, seeing you in Terrifier and then meeting you last year. You're genuinely one of the coolest guys I've met in the horror community, and I mean that.
Thank you. I mean, there's so many cool guys in this community too. I've discovered. I'm like, that's what's been so much fun about going to these conventions is meeting these guys and seeing what they're like in real life. They're all so freaking cool.
Yeah. That's the wonderful thing about the horror community is there are so many amazing people, like people that look from the outside that aren't a part of horror or like, oh, you watch horror movies? Okay. But once you get to know the people that are into it, they're some of the nicest people I've ever met.
Oh, they really are. They really are. And that's what I've really enjoyed about these conventions is being able to spend time with the fans and stuff like that. I'm like, I like to go down there and just sit at the bars, after the convention and just talk to people and unwind that way. That's just so much fun for me.
That's awesome, man. And what I want to tell you is I wish you all the success and continued success, not only with Terrifier and Art the Clown, but with your career as a whole. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you do next and where you go from here.
Oh, thanks, man. I am too. I just gotta get my agents on the ball.
I mean, you've just hit the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more that you can be able to do, and it's really exciting.
Ah, thanks. I appreciate the vote of confidence there.
Absolutely, man. And again, thank you so much for joining me tonight. And thank you to the listeners for listening to another episode of Desmond's Flicks. Really appreciate you guys hanging out with us and listening to me and David just talk about horror films and Art the Clown. Yeah, Art the Clown. Terrifier 2, just right around the corner. Can't wait. Is that coming out in 2020?
I hope so. I like to say I have 2020 vision, but we're working on getting a
I like that.
yeah. But we're working on trying to get studio support right now since we got the script finished. So like I hope like once we get that we can start casting, do pre-production, and start filming some hopefully by the end of this year. So knock on wood on that.
Oh, well, I and many other fans of Terrifier are eagerly awaiting to check out the sequel and see what other shenanigans Art the Clown has up his sleeve.
Up his sleeve, up his pants, legs, everywhere.
I mean, I would expect no less.
Oh, exactly. He's like an evil MacGyver.
I want to see like an evil MacGyver.
I know, me too. No.
Can we make that happen? Can you put on the MacGyver wig and just start? You got some there.
That would be fun. Oh my god, that would be fun. Instead of like trying to escape situations, he's trying to set up those situations. It's like, okay, so I'm gonna get some bubble gum and some and I'm gonna electrocute people and blow them up.
That just sounds like a parody waiting to happen.
Oh yeah. His mullet's like a reaction from like he just blew off so much of his hair and just grew back that way or something like
My God. You need to write these down, man.
I know I do.
I've got a Q-tip and some alcohol. Let's
And I got a used umbrella. We'll make this work.
we'll make this work. Well, again, guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you again to David Howard Thornton for joining me. Keep a lookout for Terrifier 2. And if anyone who's listening to this hasn't seen Terrifier, you need to fix that and watch it right now because it's freaking badass. Be sure to follow me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Desmond's Flicks. With all that said, I'll see you all next week. Same spooky time, same spooky channel.